Okay, welcome to the City of Columbia Planning Commission meeting of February 1st, 2021. Welcome to Planning Commission members, staff, and guests. We ask for your patience during this virtual meeting. Multiple staff members are behind the scenes with us today are Lucinda Statler, Planning Administrator, Rachel Bailey, the Zoning Administrator, Jonathan Chambers, Land Development Administrator, and Andrew Livingood, Annexation Coordinator.
During the meeting, you'll see live images or still images of Planning Commission members and the administrator. However, images of the applicant and public will not be visible. The public will be able to participate via 3 methods in addition to watching. Folks can email in, phone in, or log into the web session. And when participating, please provide your name for documentation purposes. To watch the meeting, the public may stream the meetings through City TV accessed at www.youtube.com/user/ColumbiaSC-government. The public may also submit letters and statements via email to cocboardmeeting@columbiasc.gov, leading up to and/or during the meeting, as this account will be monitored during the meetings. Emails and letters sent during the meeting will be read into the record. Emails and letters received prior to the meeting have been forwarded to the commission. The public may also participate via phone. You may call 855-925-2801, and when prompted, please enter the meeting code 9456. And we'll do a roll call. Mr. Frost?
Here.
Ms. James?
Here.
Mr. Cohn?
Here.
Ms. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Ms. Hartz?
Here.
Dr. Mandel?
Here.
And Mr. Tupper?
Here.
We have a quorum.
I'll give a brief review of the meeting format. Applicants with requests before Planning Commission are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time should include, but is not limited to, an overview of the project, case history, and any pertinent meetings held regarding the request. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant, such as attorneys, engineers, and architects. This time limit does not include any questions asked by the Planning Commission or staff regarding requests. Members of the general public are given the opportunity to address their concerns in intervals of 2 minutes. The administrator does have a timer and will make presenters aware of when their time has expired. The Planning Commission reserves the right to amend these procedures on a case-by-case basis. The Planning Commission uses the consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion and vote. Examples of such items include approval of site plans, annexations, and street names. If a member of the Planning Commission or the general public wants to discuss an item on the consent agenda, that item is removed from the consent agenda and considered during the meeting. The Planning Commission then approves the remaining consent agenda items.
The items for the consent agenda this evening consist of the approval of the January 4th, 2021 minutes with one edit. Staff member Lee DeForth was present at the January meeting. It is not listed, so we're going to make that change. I'm not aware of any other changes. Then the next item is a request for site plan approval for the construction of an educational building at Midlands Technical College. This property is zone C3, general commercial. The third item is a request for approval of a group development sign for Caliber Collision. This is at 7451 Garners Ferry Road, and the properties are zoned C3. And sorry, let me just go back to number 2. I don't think I read the address. This is for 316 North Beltline Boulevard. That's the Midlands Tech building. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Is there anyone from the Planning Commission that would like any item removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none. Is there anyone from the public that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Again, when participating, please provide your name for the minutes. Please communicate by sending an email to cocboardmeeting@columbiasc.gov. Please communicate via phone by pressing *2 to leave a voicemail or *3 to speak in person. We will pause to allow communication from the public. The phone number is 855-925-2801, and that meeting code is 9456. Do we have any emails or any callers on the line associated with the consent agenda?
Andrew, are you on mute?
Hi, Mr. Chair. This is Andrew Livingood.
Yes.
Regrettably, we're having a few issues with the public input site. It actually just dropped the bridge, so I'm working on that right now. I do know there are some callers on the line. However, I believe they are for other items on the agenda. But bear with me just a moment.
Okay.
Thanks, Andrew. In the meantime, I do not see any emails that have come through, except for one that's somebody trying to get through via the public input meeting.
Okay.
So we'll just wait on that for another moment.
Hello, this is Andrew. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you, Andrew.
Okay. Hold on a second. I gotta mute myself.
Okay, it looks like we may be trying to forward some folks on a telephone call that we can then put on the speaker. Make sure they're for the consent agenda though.
Okay.
Sorry about the wait, you guys. Should probably get some Jeopardy music to play. Let's see.
Oh, y'all, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, I apologize. I'm talking to you right now through Zoom. And I actually have the folks with public input working on it. And I'm going to see what we're going to do here. I don't believe anyone that is trying to get through is getting through about the consent agenda, but they certainly are trying to get through on the regular agenda cases. And let me mute that thing here. Sorry about that feedback.
That's okay. So is it confirmed that none of the callers on the line are for the consent agenda?
So bear with me just one moment.
Okay.
Someone emailed the COC board meeting email. Have you all checked with him as to which case he was trying to call for?
I have seen one, I've seen two emails on the board meeting email. One of them was somebody who just wanted to get their case was on the consent agenda. I think.
So I'm going to try to reset the bridge with public input and Zoom. What might happen is it might end up kicking everyone off of public input, so they'll need to call back in. But if someone on your end could do me a favor and unmute the public input line when it comes in, that would be helpful. So bear with me one moment.
So Andrew, do you need me to do something on unmuting?
I think I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yep.
Okay, good. That's progress. And let's see. I don't think I have audio on anywhere else. Let me make sure I don't. Are you still getting feedback?
Not now.
No.
Well, wait a minute. It looks like you're muted, but public input is not muted. So I think that's what you needed it to be, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes. Okay. So I will say for the regular meeting, there are some folks I know that need to get through, and we will try to connect them as best as possible. We're aware of some of those persons, so we can reach out to them. Again, to my knowledge, no one is calling about the consent agenda.
Okay. Well, maybe we can go ahead and move forward with the motion on that one.
Okay, yeah. Having no emails and no phone calls regarding the consent agenda, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda. This is April James.
Got a motion, can I get a second, please?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is approved.
Thank you.
The Planning Commission will now move forward with those items on the regular agenda. We'll use the following outline for regular agenda items. The administrator will introduce the case. The applicant will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. Planning Commission may ask questions. The public will be allowed to participate via email, voicemail, voice in person, or via the web. Planning Commission may ask additional questions of the applicant, and then action will be taken by the Planning Commission.
So the first item on the regular agenda is the reconsideration of annexation 2020-0027. This is 1307 Mason Road. And so what happened, this was on the agenda for the January Planning Commission meeting. And similar to what we're having some trouble tonight, there were a couple of folks on the public input platform that did not show up as being present until the meeting had adjourned. So in order to allow them to speak on this case, we are asking that the Planning Commission reconsider this case. And so the first thing we would need is for the commission to make a motion to reconsider, and then we can move forward with that action item.
Okay. So can I get a motion to reconsider 2020-0027, 1307 Mason Road?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion for reconsideration of the Annex 2020-0027 at 1307 Mason Road.
Got a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is approved.
So we'll just walk through these slides as we did last time. This is a request for a recommendation to assign land use classification of an urban edge multifamily and assign a zoning of general residential RG2 for a pending annexation at 1307 Mason Road. Here's the property on the aerial. Here is the property. You can see where North Main Street is and I-20 and the adjacent land use. And then here's the current zoning map. And are there any, I guess, questions? And then we'll find out, I guess, in a minute whether we can get our.
Do we have any questions from the Planning Commission members? Hearing none, we'll move over to public comment. We encourage those who would like to comment via email or the web to begin sending in letters and emails. Again, the email is cocboardmeeting@columbiasc.gov or on the web at publicinput.com/cocpc-February. For those wanting to leave a voicemail or speak live, please call 855-925-2801. When prompted, please enter the meeting code 9456. Then press *2 to leave a voicemail or press *3 to speak live. Please be sure your computer audio is off to avoid feedback.
Hi, Mr. Chair. I do have at least one of the callers connected, and I'm going to try to unmute him right now. And unless you wanted to hear from the applicant first, who may be on the call with y'all.
I think we can go either way. Does anybody from Planning Commission need to hear from the applicant? Hearing none, I think we can go straight into public comment, and if you can put the caller through.
Okay, hold on one moment. Hello, Mr. Gary?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello? Okay, yes. Okay, Mr. Chair, members of the City of Columbia Planning Commission and staff, good afternoon. I'm Charles Gary, a real estate developer, a resident of North Columbia. While I'm in agreement with the proposed annexation, I cannot support the proposed zoning. To give a developer a license to develop 36.5 acres of land with an RG2 classification is beyond me. It would allow the property to potentially be developed with 598 units on North Main Street. North Main Street is one of the gateways to the city. You know, while there's a need for additional housing in the Columbia area, but to me, it's unthinkable to give a developer the license to develop that many units at one of the gateways. You know, I look at what is happening along 215 and the dedicated efforts that the Columbia International University is making to clean up 215, and I'm wondering whatever happened to the North Main Street study that was commissioned by the City of Columbia several years ago. What happened to that study? Is it on a shelf someplace? And I'm pretty sure that study does not include this many units on that site or any site along North Main Street. I believe the City of Columbia and the community would be better served with a mixed residential use on this property rather than allowing the developer a license or free ticket to put another project right at one of our gateways. With that in mind, I strongly I strongly would suggest denial of the request for the RG2 zoning. I don't know whether the annexation and the zoning are hand in hand, but I think the annexation, I think Columbia needs to expand its boundaries. I think this property is ideal for annexation along with North 21 Terrace and some other areas out in the North Columbia area. I think needs to be annexed into the city. I think this would also will lead to steps to doing those kinds of things and close up some of the domino holes that has been created. I thank you for your time and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I do have an email that has just come through regarding this case. This is from Harold Murray, a resident of the Greenview community. He says, I'm requesting that the zoning request for 1307 Mason Road be denied for the following reasons. The location of this property is at the major gateway into the city of Columbia, being located at the intersection of I-20 and North Main Street. This development will be River's Edge ×4. This city of Columbia has spent tens of millions of dollars developing the Trestle District. Why would you allow a River's Edge be the front door to the city of Columbia on its main entrance to the city? This is a long-term decision. Once the development is constructed, the city of Columbia will be stuck for years with unattractive entrance to the city. And that's the end of the email. I don't have any others at this point.
Okay. Do we have any follow-up questions from the Planning Commission for staff? And Lucinda, just to be clear, this approval for annexation includes rezoning, correct?
Correct. It's a recommended, yes, zoning district and land use for the property that will be annexed. And the staff recommendation is approval.
Lucinda, a quick question. Could they get another land classification that wouldn't give them such a broad leeway of putting so many houses up?
I mean, at this time, that's the current recommended land use and zoning that the applicant is asking for. They certainly could, I mean, make a different proposal. But at this time, that's the one that we are considering today.
Okay, thank you.
I think somebody had mentioned the applicant was on the line. Maybe it is worth hearing from the applicant to talk a little bit about their plans with the zoning. I guess, Lucinda, it's also my understanding that a site plan would come through for review at some point too, correct?
Absolutely, that would happen at a
Yes.
later date. A separate request.
Is the applicant on the line and available to answer any questions?
I can't tell if.
Lucinda, while you're talking about that, is there a way that you could address the process of the site plan review so that members of the public who are listening in have an understanding of what the process would be before there could be any building on that property?
Yes, absolutely. So basically, when a development proposal is put together by the applicant, that would be submitted to the city, and it would be reviewed by all of the agencies within the city that look at proposals, that particularly residential developments, that looks at, you know, circulation, access, traffic studies. It would be looked at, you know, in accordance with the zoning regulations. The fire marshal would look at it from, you know, public safety standpoint. And all of those agencies would look at the proposal in terms of how it meets or does not meet the city technical review process. And then that would come before the Planning Commission for a site plan approval. And Jonathan Chambers is, administers that process. I don't know if he wants to chime in on that.
But just to note, listen to so before anything is built on that property, even if the zoning changes, there would be signs that would be placed to inform the public that there would be another process to go through. And the public would have the opportunity to have input into what is built there. Is that correct?
Well, site plan approval as a process does not require the legal notifications that we do, for example, for rezonings. It is part of the public meeting. It would go out on the Planning Commission agenda, but it doesn't have the same, posting of the property. So that is a distinction. It would be before this commission and would certainly be part of the public agenda, but it wouldn't be advertised the same way as a rezoning.
Is that something that a member of the public could ask to be informed on? I mean, it seems like there are multiple people who feel pretty strongly that this would impact that area pretty dramatically, and I think it would. So the idea that they would have input or be able to further address it if the zoning was changed, that would be nice, that they would have another opportunity.
Right. Yes, we do have a list, basically a distribution list for people who are interested in getting notifications of all of our agendas. So anybody who wants to be on that list, they would get the agenda via email for all of our boards and commission meetings, and then they'd have that advance notice of when it was going to be at the Planning Commission.
So they can send you an email and ask for that. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And I think, let's see, I think I have another, since we're having trouble with the public input, I'm actually going to call this gentleman real quick and see if I can just put him on speaker. So if y'all just bear with me for a moment.
Okay.
Do we have anybody on staff that could speak to maybe the prior discussion that we've had as far as the number of units is planned by the developer at this point?
This is Lee. I could speak to the gentleman's comment regarding the North Main master plan. Is that what you're interested in? Or would you rather hear from Rachel regarding zoning?
Either with me is just fine. Thank you.
Well, I guess, Rachel, do you want me to start and you could follow up? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the North Main Master Plan, which was adopted in the early 2000s, actually does not cover this property because the plan's area was only for those properties that were within the city limits at the time of the planning process. So although it does not cover the plan, your case summary that you received does review a relevant existing neighborhood plan, which is the walkable 29203 pedestrian master plan. And that plan covers the whole of the 29203 zip code. But there are no specific recommendations for land use within that plan. That plan really talks about how we make it safer for pedestrians. So it does, you'll see noted in the case summary, it recommends some sidewalk infill along Mason Road from Sinclair to Weston, and just generally recommends improving the streetscape for pedestrian use. But it does not deal with potential residential densities, that sort of thing. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rachel.
Okay. The RG2 zoning district allows for roughly 16.4 units per acre when it comes to density. The rezoning itself is not project specific, so I can't speak to how many units the applicant plans to have on the parcel. But just overall, the availability for the zoning district would be 16.4 units per acre. So, and Dr. Mandel, to touch on something you had asked too, we do have a active Board of Zoning Appeals application on this property. So there would be postings for that variance request to notify the neighborhood of another public hearing opportunity as well.
And when you guys are ready, I do have Mr. Starnes on the line and I'll put him on speaker. If you guys are ready for more public comment.
Sure, please go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Starnes?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna turn up the volume and hopefully they'll be able to hear you. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is James Starnes. I am president of the North 21 Terrace Neighborhood Association, which is the neighborhood the property on Mason Road is located. And I'm calling on behalf of our neighbors who, due to circumstances beyond our control and beyond the control of Mr. Lawrence, the architect, we were brought to the table fairly late in this process. We happened to see a sign about the zoning meeting, and from that point, we've gotten very consistent feedback from Mr. Lawrence. He's provided us with a wealth of information about the plan for the property. The neighbors have expressed some concerns about, number one, the property being annexed and the potential for the North 21 Terrace neighborhood to end up being annexed basically without their consent. That is the concern that they've had. They have not expressed a lot of concern about a housing development coming to that area, but they are gun shy based on our experience a couple of years ago when the plan was to develop this same property, and they were given information that they just, again, we had to ask for a seat at the table that time. And the neighbors were concerned because of being told that the property would be developed into housing that would attract, quote, USC professors. That would be the likelihood of a Denny's, a Walmart, and other businesses coming to the area. And since there are a number of businesses that are closed in the area, of course, the neighbors were somewhat suspect and just did not get wrapped around supporting that project wholeheartedly. This time, the concern, excuse me, is ensuring that whatever housing comes to this area, however it is developed, that is not developed in such a way that the neighborhood would be in decline. According to the reviews for some of the projects that this company operates in other parts of the state, there are complaints of drug sales in the parking lot, the property instantly declining or turning into a, quote, ghetto after it was there. We've not seen the property, so we can't, of course, substantiate that, but on at least 2 properties owned by the company, those are concerns. And of course, the neighbors asked me to express their concern about the potential for such a problem at this property. There were complaints at the property about management not being able to be located, issues with trash, issues with pests. And of course, there were also some positive reviews. But the main point the neighborhood has asked me to express is their concern about the developer being, and I'm certain that this is not something that the zoning council can do, planning committee can do, but that we have them not make promises and then we end up with the neighborhood being annexed, property being developed into a complex that's going to be in decline very quickly. And then also the issue of traffic, making sure that the traffic is resolved and making sure that there are no flood issues right next to that property on North Main Street. You'll remember during the famous flood is where the car was down in the street, which was covered on national news. So those are their concerns. We appreciate Mr. Lawrence and the support that information he's been able to provide for us. But I've been asked to share those concerns with the committee, and I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Did y'all have any questions?
I think we're good, Lucinda.
Okay, Mr. Starnes, if you could continue to listen through your streaming. Do you have this up on YouTube?
I have not been able to stay on YouTube. It tells me that there's an application error and then it disconnects me, but I will try again.
Okay, call us back if you need to.
Thank you very much.
All right. And I also have another email that has come through in the last couple of minutes. This is from Mr. Murray, Harold Murray again, from the Greenview community. He says, Mason Road is a very busy street since it is the connector between North Main Street and Fairfield Road. The entry and exit location to this property will create a traffic nightmare. Based on the limitations of this property, an entry from North Main Street would create congestion at the intersection of North Main Street and Mason Road. There is a sizable pond on the northwest part of the property, and there is a water drainage issue as well. During the October 2015 flood, that portion of North Main Street experienced a washout. An entrance and exit on Mason Road would be dangerous because that portion of the property is near the crest of a hill. This property would probably need to have an entry and exit that leads into the adjacent North 21 Terrace neighborhood. There are street size limitations since the most probable street to use in that neighborhood would be Denton Street. Denton Street is a narrow street that is not a thoroughfare. I am familiar with the limitation of the street because I have relatives who live on this street near the development property. And that concludes Mr. Murray's email.
I guess I'll ask if there's any new correspondence or any other callers on the line.
I do not see any new callers on the line.
Any other follow-up questions from Planning Commission?
Jamie, I have a question for staff. If a site plan was submitted, would that include a traffic study? Would that be part of the site plan?
Often it is. I don't know if Jonathan has any more info about what the thresholds are for that, but generally when there's a larger residential development, the city traffic engineer often asks for a traffic study.
Yes, I'm here. And they have, I believe they have made application for the next Planning Commission meeting, and I believe that a traffic impact study has been submitted.
Okay, thank you.
Any other follow-up questions from the Planning Commission?
I have a quick question for staff. Has this property come up before us a couple of years ago?
I think it did. I think there was, I might have to defer to somebody else, but I think this is a portion of a bigger proposal.
Yes, it was more land that came before, in the past for annexation, and it was going to be annexed and then zoned as a planned unit development. I believe it went before you all, and then it did not make it through council. It was withdrawn before any council votes due to some changes.
Okay. It was John. So I was just trying to get a clarification. Thank you.
Of course.
All right. Any more questions? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve the recommendation to assign land use classification of urban edge multifamily and assign zoning of general residential district RG2 for a pending annexation at 1307 Mason Road.
Got a motion. Can I get a second?
My mic wasn't working. I'll second that.
All right, got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Yes, I'm opposed.
I'm opposed.
Okay, we
We do a count by name for that one.
yeah, we might need to count on this one.
Yeah. We'll do a roll call. Mr. Cohn,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
No.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Ms. Harts,
No.
Ms. James,
Yes.
Dr. Mandel,
No,
Mr. Tupper,
Yes.
Mr. Frost.
Yes.
Motion passes. The next case, this is a site plan review. This is a request for site plan approval for the construction of a 35 lot cluster housing development. This is the Wheeler Hill Phase 2. It includes the north and south side of the 400 block of Callaway Alley, 417 through 425 Henderson Street, 1603 through 1615 Rice Street, 2 vacant lots on the south side of the 1600 block of Rice Street, 312 through 328 Pickens Street, a vacant lot within the 1600 block of Catawba Street, and a portion of Phelps Street. The properties are zoned RG2. These are the properties in question. Here's the zoning. And then we've got several pages of site plan. This is the Phelps Street proposal. And the grading and drainage. And these are some examples of the proposed new construction. Jonathan, did you want to add anything at this point?
No, I think you covered it. I would just add that this is for it is a 35 lot single family cluster housing development, which allows the lot sizes to vary a little bit between what would be allowed outright for the zoning. So the lots range from about 3,500 square feet to 4,700 square feet. And it also includes a proposed extension of Phelps Street. Our office has received several calls and letters of opposition. Several of them are included in your packet. There was one letter emailed to you today, which is from the Wheeler Hill Neighborhood Association. And we just want to make sure that we have that on the record. It is, let's see here. It is the letter that is dated January 29th, addressed to me from the Wheeler Hill Neighborhood Association, 2-page letter, and it has an exhibit with it as well. We just want to make sure that that's part of the record. And I believe the applicant is present at this time and can explain their case.
I would say let's go ahead and hear from the applicant, and then we can follow up with any planning commission questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. I appreciate your time this evening. We were before you several months back. We rezoned the property from a PUD that was an older generation PUD, and it was a single use PUD. And based on the Supreme Court's ruling, we could not modify that PUD whatsoever. So we went back to the drawing board, rezoned RG2 in anticipation of moving to a cluster housing to simulate lot sizes similar to the older section of Wheeler Hill, and very similar to what was proposed in the original PUD. We've had several, pre-COVID, we had some live meetings with the stakeholders. Since COVID, we've had several Zoom meetings and phone calls and so forth with the neighborhood. We're trying to develop this commensurate to the housing type and size and so forth of the existing neighborhood. We've actually reduced the number of lots from the original PUD to make the lower area where the pond is work better and have a park and so forth. We tried to work with the, and are still trying to work with the existing church in the neighborhood, as well as some of the neighbors. You know, we've had a couple different versions of the plan. The city staff that felt should connect. There's certainly logic to that, and that's what we originally were looking at some other options. The option that seemed to make the most sense all the way around. I know there's some concerns with the neighbors relative to additional traffic in the neighborhood because Phelps Street connects, but it's kind of laid out on a grid that seems to make sense. That was probably the way it was originally designed. You know, Columbia was kind of designed on a grid system. But a deference to your time, I'm glad to answer any questions.
Hey, this is, I'm sorry, David, this is Chairman Frost. Thanks for being here. What, can you tell me if originally Phelps was platted to run all the way through?
In the original PUD, it was not. There's been a reconfiguration of some lots along Pickens Street that were originally fronting on Pickens Street. There was an heirs parcel in there that they've gotten clean title to, so that changed that configuration. And we thought it was much safer rather than have 5 or 6 lots front on Pickens Street and have to back in or pull in and out to face those into the neighborhood. So that's the major change from the PUD. But the PUD did not connect on Pickens Street. Here again, I wasn't involved when that was passed 15 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, which is, I heard you mention that you were trying to work with the church, and there were some earlier kinds of thoughts about the idea of that being a, you know, historically Black neighborhood, and that, you know, that church is kind of the last vestige of that. And was USC going to make any, you know, sort of efforts to be supportive of the church and helpful of the church? And so I'm wondering what the status of that is right now.
Yeah, so I can only speak from our perspective on that. We purchased the property in January of last year. We worked through the process. We had early meetings with the church and others. We understand the church would love more space, and we're certainly willing to accommodate as best we can, knowing that, you know, we certainly have a business model here with obligations to others to perform on it. But where we are currently, from my understanding, is I think the university is working on it. I had a call earlier this week with the pastor and a member of the neighborhood, and agreed, you know, because we took about a 6-month break to see what might could happen with the church property relative to them raising some funds to maybe expand their site. We reached a kind of an agreement that we would potentially be able, if we were to pass tonight, to go ahead and plat those lots, but we would keep the lots that were adjacent to the church off the market for the time being while they were still trying to work on things. But to understand that clearly we couldn't hold them forever, but we're willing to work on that for another 3 or 4 months. We have local builders, 3 of them, the quality builders that are very interested in getting started in here and have a lot of interest. So that's the extent. I'm not sure where the talks are with the university beyond that because I haven't been involved.
So your understanding is that your current offering to the church is that you will basically keep those lots off the market and there's no agreed upon time? I mean, I guess it sounds pretty vague. I guess I'm wondering if there's any actual agreement.
Well, Dr. Randall, we don't have a written agreement. Everything that I've done with them, and I've lived up to my part of it, was all verbal. I didn't move on the property for 7 months while I was paying interest and taxes, et cetera, in deference to the church to see what could be done with the university and the foundation and others to try to accommodate their request. And nothing's materialized yet, but we're certainly willing. We kind of talked about another 90 days or so to see what might happen.
Are you offering it to them, those lots, at a particular price or, at a discounted? I mean, I'm just kind of curious. Like I said, it doesn't, I'm just trying to get a sense of what the agreement is because there's a lot of history between that church and that neighborhood and the university and the development.
Yeah. And I'm certainly aware of that. And we've, we bought the property from the foundation. The foundation owned it for 18, 19, 20 years. And shortly after we bought it, folks started, wanting to roll up their sleeves and try to get to work on that. We haven't discussed a final price with the church because there hasn't been any movement relative to funding. We're certainly willing to talk on that, but here again, we have a viable project and we'd like to move forward, and we can be accommodating as long as we can, but at some point we have to move forward.
I guess I'd be interested if there's anybody from the church here to speak tonight, but I know there are other people as well, so I'll let it be for now.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time? Hearing none, I think we can move to public comment.
I think I need to make another couple of calls for folks that are having trouble getting through. So just bear with me for a moment.
In the meanwhile, I do have a caller that has raised their hand to speak. I can patch them through.
Okay, that'd be great.
Thank you. This is Dick Harpooly, and I am not only state senator that represents this area. I've lived in this neighborhood for 50 years and watched Wheeler Hill demolished by the University of South Carolina over a period of 10 years by neglect. They would not fix houses up. African-American families lived in hovels without water, without electricity, as a guy named Hal Brunton ran them out and destroyed that neighborhood. The church is the last vestige. I knew Fannie Phelps Adams, that street's named after. I knew many of the African-American members of the community down there, and we worked together as a neighborhood. I'm concerned about what's going on from two aspects. One, and I think Jim Daniels will talk to you in a moment, the president of the neighborhood association. We agreed to the change from a PUD to the new zoning. And when we agreed to do that, Phelps Street was going to remain closed as it had been in the PUD. And now the developer is seeking, he seems to rely on the city to open it and make it another thoroughfare through Wheeler Hill. The neighborhood's opposed to that. I'm opposed to that. And having lived here, as I say, for almost a half a century, I understand what's going to happen when that street opens. Now, if the city staff is opposed to that, we should have an opportunity to meet with them before we go forward. And if he's indicated he's got another 90 days before he's going to give the church a chance to work something out, there'd be no problem in delaying this until at least the next meeting, so we can get with the city staff to see what we can do about dealing with this cul-de-sac and thoroughfare on Phelps Street. The other thing I'd say is this: the university should step up and buy those lots. God knows they committed atrocity after atrocity on Wheeler Hill back in the early 70s. So I'd ask you to carry this over, and maybe the applicant won't mind if we do it for at least 30 days to see what progress we can make with the city staff on dealing with this Phelps Street closure. I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Any questions from staff for Mr. Harpootlian? Or from the commission? I'm sorry, any questions from the commission to Mr. Harpootlian?
I mean, it sounds like, you know, the neighborhood supported it under a particular set of circumstances, and those circumstances, you know, have changed and they do not support it anymore. And I would echo, you know, the idea that this neighborhood it is historically, there have been terrible things that have happened here, and this church is the last piece of what happened. And one of the earlier comments, you know, was about what could be done to help them, and the idea that, you know, there's money to be made and people waiting to make money, and that this church just needs to get it together. I do not appreciate that. I think, you know, it's unfortunate that the developer has purchased property with a history of atrocities, but that is what has happened. That is what has happened on this property and in this area. And to pretend that's not true is, you know, that's the history. It's real.
Could I mention one other thing? I was not aware of what has been going on until just today, when I was talking to the folks on Wheeler Hill, the officers of the organization on Wheeler Hill. I'll be happy to go to the university and see if we can't get some money found, either through appropriations or existing appropriations, to buy these lots for the church. I feel, again, if they're going to give 90 days, give us 60 days to see if we can't work out stuff with the city, and see if I can't get that money to buy these lots. I don't know what the applicant would object to that, would he?
Yeah, Mr. Harpootlian, I appreciate your efforts there, and would certainly applaud them. I want to be clear, I wasn't involved in any of the atrocities that went on here. We're trying to be good stewards of the land moving forward. We've worked with a few of the existing residents. I'm getting pressure from my lender and others. Like I said, we've taken 7 months to work through this. I'm willing to hold the lots that are adjacent to the church off the market and give some time, but I need to move forward with the project if it's possible. Like I said, I've been very accommodating for a while, trying to please everybody. Now I'm sorry, I'm aware of that, but there's certainly been efforts by the Wheeler Hill group and the association working with the university and residents with direct ties, both to the president's office and the foundation for months. So, I certainly would appreciate any heavy lifting you can do.
Well, you would hold off on selling those adjacent lots for 90 days?
Yes, but if everybody was so inclined and I could move forward with the other, I could certainly, I'd be willing to do that.
Would you agree to hold off for 30 days so we can see if we can work something out with the city on the cul-de-sac?
That's an unfair question. I've got forces that are asking me to move forward. I've got staff and so forth that recommended that the road connect, and now I'm out here kind of dangling by myself, and I don't think that's appropriate.
Well, you would agree that the plan you have now is not what you sold us 2 years ago, a year and a half ago.
Yeah, the
You
city,
baited and switched, maybe not intentionally, but what we have now, you're asking them to approve, is not what you showed us. I went to those meetings, and this is not what we bought.
I wasn't.
Correct.
The city staff is the one who's required the connection. We submitted a plan that didn't connect. So if the staff thinks it doesn't need to connect or does need to connect, they need to voice that while we're on the call.
I mean, I understand that, but given 30 days, maybe we can work that out with the city. If not, then it is what it is. You also pick up an extra lot. This is the zoning was for 34 lots. This is for 35 lots.
Yeah, Mr. Harpootlian, this is down
Correct.
from 42 under the original PUD.
I understand that, but what was approved that we went along with was 34 lots. This was 35, and you pick that extra lot up by not having to do that cul-de-sac. So this is just a money-making enterprise to you. These folks, this is their homes. They'd like you to live up to what you promised, and promised 34 lots, not 35, and a cul-de-sac. Give us 30 days to see if we can work it out. Would you agree to that?
No, I'm not accustomed. I served on Richland County Planning Commission for 8 years. I'm not accustomed to having dialogue with somebody who's called in on the project.
Okay, well, perhaps, and I'm not threatening anything, but perhaps we need to deal with this in the courts, because I don't think this is what was approved. Or the Planning Commission could continue it for 30 days and give us a chance to work this out. And I don't appreciate your unwillingness to do that. That's all I have.
You're claiming, and I don't want to get into debate here publicly on a phone call, but for 7
No,
months,
this is the place to debate it.
I've sat idle, and now you're the first phone call in, and now if I don't hold up for another 30 days, I'm the bad guy. That's not fair.
Yes.
That's not fair.
Well, well, what's not fair is, if you knew the history of the land you bought, is what's happened down there. You're unwilling to accommodate the church. You're unwilling to live up to the deal that was 34 lots and Phelps wouldn't go through. And when the city staff told you that, I think you needed to come and sit down with Mr. Daniel and others and try to work through that with the city, which is not what you did. I'm just telling you.
Mr. Harpootlian, I had a Zoom call with the neighborhood association last week after we submitted and we got comments back.
After you submitted this to the Planning Commission, not before.
Well, Mr. Harpootlian, the way it's typically worked in my career is we submit it, we get comments back from the municipality, and once it's kind of in a form that the public could engage on, there's no sense in reviewing the first draft if the third draft's the one that needs to be debated.
Debating it.
Excuse me, can I offer, can the city staff just walk us through a little bit about the process of, the road connection, and see if we can make any headway that way?
Sure. This is Jonathan Chambers. The original plan that was presented to us had I believe it had, and I'm trying to pull it up now. I'm not sure who will be able to get it shared, but the original plan had Phelps Street as a gated access. There was a gate, and you cannot gate a public street.
No. It wasn't. I believe it was a cul-de-sac, a hammerhead cul-de-sac.
But that would be that would be the plan. I believe that they're referencing is the plan that was submitted with the rezoning request from PUD to RG2, which I believe is referenced in a lot of the letters back in 2020. And that plan was different than what was submitted to us for the original Planning Commission submittal.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry.
If I might, we submitted a plan with a hammerhead, and there was a concern for life safety that the run was too long for a fire truck. So like we've done in other neighborhoods, we propose an emergency access, quote unquote knockdown gate, one that goes off with the siren, et cetera, to gain access from them. The city has a requirement that you cannot gate, quote unquote, a public road. So we offered to make the road private for the new section, and that wasn't viable. So the next iteration was to connect the road. From my memory, it was a life safety issue where a lot of times you have a run that's longer and they would like fire trucks to be able to come in. So we proposed a knockdown limited gate only for emergency use, which would be beneficial to everyone, but that's not allowed under the current city codes. It's allowed in the county, but it's not allowed in the city.
Thank you.
So, and this is Rachel. I just want to comment. I know the site plan, there was a conceptual plan that was included in the rezoning application that came before you all last year. A rezoning is not conditioned on anything and it is not project specific. So that plan was not binding through the rezoning. I just want to make sure that's clear as well.
Okay.
Jamie,
Thank you.
Ford, did you have a question?
Yeah, it was mentioned that the gate, the emergency access gate, was not allowed through city code. Is that something that could be addressed through the Board of Zoning Appeals? Potentially? Or is that just
No.
okay?
Yeah, that's outside of zoning scope.
Okay.
Would the applicant mind deferring to next month to come to some kind of meeting of the minds?
You know, if it's the wish of the commission, I'm glad for another 30 days. It just can't, you know, I don't know where that puts me. I mean, somebody would have to let me understand if we agree to 30 days, does that mean I'm on March's planning commission, or have I already missed that? And would I be on April's planning commission?
I would think March, because that would still give you 30 days, you know, to try to get something figured out.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm willing to do that. I'm not sure what we're going to figure out that we haven't in the last 7 months, but if we think 30 days gets us there, I would do that, but I can't go beyond that.
Lucinda, can you confirm if it was deferred, that it would be on March's agenda and not April?
Yep, let me take a look at the calendar real quick. Let's see.
And if we could then move on to any additional public comment, folks.
I guess, hang on. Well, we technically have missed the deadline for March. That was on January 27th.
But usually if they're deferred at the meeting, they get to go to the following meeting.
Well, then I guess, yeah, it would just be a matter of, you know, however long it takes to work out whatever so that we can get a revised site plan reviewed by staff if that's the result of this. You know, largely site plans, again, have to do with the city agencies review, you know, technical review and making recommendations. So, I mean, we would just, do everything we can, but we'd have to, Jonathan and folks would have to figure out if that can be turned around in time.
It's possible that we could get it back to the March 1st meeting. It would be tight, but it's possible.
Okay, that's good.
Depending on how fast the meetings take place and that kind of thing.
I mean, if it's possible, I would support that. I think I really do hear the developer to the degree that it's to ask them to put it off for too long is really unfair. So if we ask them to put it off for a month, I don't think that's great for anybody. It means that the neighborhood has to hustle, the city has to hustle, and the developer has to put off making money for longer. But it does seem like that's one possible way that there could be forward progress, because right now there is, I mean, nobody happy. So, and if there's an opportunity, again, I come back to the church, if there's the possibility that the church can be supported in being allowed to have additional properties and is not, you know, pardon my French, screwed under this circumstance, I would be very happy with that. So if there's a possibility that people could work really hard and it could get done, you know, we could put it off for a month, I would very much support that. And I know that's not optimal for anybody, but I would support it.
Okay, Dick, is that acceptable to you as well? Speaking on behalf of, I guess, the other communities and just being in that community.
Also, sorry to interrupt. I've got Jim Daniel on the line. If I could, just for a moment, he would like to say a couple of words as well. Okay, Jim, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. And can you mute your computer for a minute?
Yeah, will do. Come on, cursor. Yeah, I think Mr. Hopkins has pretty much covered it, but I would mention that the Phelps Street, hang on, I'm gonna try to thought I did that. Hang on. I think he's pretty much covered the position I wanted to cover. There are a couple of things. The revised Phelps Street drawing is dated December 30th, 2020. The neighborhood was not provided a copy of that by Mr. Tuttle. That was provided to us by Mr. Chambers when he sent me notification that this was on the Planning Commission agenda for February. So what happened between July of 2020 and the end of December, as far as Phelps Street was unrelated to the church issue, that's a separate issue. Secondly, I think you have in your packet 14 objections from members, 4 of whom who live on Phelps Street, to the continuation. But I think our argument, again, like Mr. Harputland presented, was that we thought we had what was going to happen was the site plan that was presented with the zoning application in 2020, and did not get the new site plan until 2 weeks ago. And that came from the city, not from the developer. Other than that, I've got a bunch of other questions. I submitted to the developer and the staff a number of questions with an addendum and asked for a written response. We haven't gotten any response to that. So I think right off the bat, this meeting needs to be postponed until those issues are dealt with. But I think that's the university situation really is between them and the church, but I think some neighbors now have gotten involved to try to push this issue further up the totem pole. It's been in the president's office. James Smith is the contact, and we've been trying to work with him and the Pastor Kinley on trying to get some funding. Anybody got any questions, please let me know.
Thank you.
Senator, am I being heard?
Yep. I think everybody can hear you, Mr. Daniel.
Okay.
Yep, we heard you.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
Okay, but I mean, I outlined in pretty substantial detail in the 2 letters our concern. And we would hope that we could work with Mr. Toto. He's a good developer. I think he's got a good game plan.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lucinda, I just have a question for staff what's the protocol for answering questions, from a private individual when they come in like that?
I mean, there's no, I think it was a little confusing, the questions, whether they were to be answered by the applicant or the planning commission. I mean, there was a number of questions that I guess dealt with different issues. So I guess we could look at those, but generally it would be something that, would be, if there's concerns between the applicant and the neighborhood, then, obviously it's ideal if those can be worked out, but generally a site plan review is just based on the technical review comments from city staff. I mean, that's generally what site plan is. And like Rachel pointed out, the site plan, that was submitted before was not, there was no obligation as part of the rezoning process staff always tries to make that point that when a rezoning is done, that is just simply what it is a rezoning. And certainly, plans, suggestions are made at certain time, but changes to plans also happen. So really staff is just looking at the site plan in terms of whether it meets the city's, regulations in terms of, access and safety and lot size and that sort of thing. And that's what the recommendation is based on.
Understood. Thank you. I don't know if the applicant's seen these questions or not. I don't know. That's what I was asking about, is the process of.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I have dialogue with Mr. Daniel fairly constantly. I had a Zoom meeting with 18 or 19 of the Wheeler Hill residents the other night. So, not sure what else we can do, but we'll certainly sit down and try to address concerns that are relevant to the process that we're involved in. We can certainly address those. Other things are certainly well beyond my control. I do, if we're going to defer and we're going to try to meet with the neighborhood, I need some clarity as to where staff would be if there's a hammerhead turnaround there that doesn't connect Phelps to Pickens Street. Is that a problem, or do they want it to connect?
Sure. Is that a question staff can make the call on while we're in this planning commission, or is that for further discussion?
That would be for further discussion because there's other departments that would be involved in that.
Understood. Do we feel that we can have that discussion and meet the March agenda for planning commission?
Yes.
Are there any other callers on the line, Lucinda, or any other emails?
Let me check on the email. I don't think so. I don't see any other emails at this point. I don't know if Andrew has any successful callers or not.
I do not have any additional callers.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions from the planning commission to staff or the applicant?
Actually, sorry, could we just get, I know it's after the fact, but could we get David to, could you just state your name for the record? Because I think we missed that at the beginning, just as the applicant, please.
David Tuttle.
Thank you.
Any further questions from planning commission? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to defer site plan review 2021-001 for the construction of a 35 lot cluster housing development, Wheeler Hill Phase 2.
Got a motion to defer. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is deferred.
Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, guys. I guess if we're moving on to other business, I just wanted to take a moment to introduce you guys to your new planning commission member. Raquel Thomas is here sitting in and will be sitting on the commission in March. And Raquel, we don't always have this many technical difficulties, so thank you for bearing with us. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Sorry, with my screen sharing, I can't see everybody.
Welcome.
Yep.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here. Heard an earful tonight, but all good. Because
Glad
of
to have you on board, Raquel. We look forward to working with you.
yes, me too. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here to help.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Raquel.
Thank you. Look forward to meeting you.
You as well, April.
All right. Well, if there's no further business, I'll take a motion that we adjourn.
Mr. Chairman,
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Got a
second.
motion? Can I get a second? Got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is adjourned, or the